Welcome to the Cup of Joe Sports Show. I'm your host, Joe Whitman. Welcome back to another episode, and this is the week. And the first pick of the NFL draft, the Arizona Cardinals take, fill in the blank. Of course, the whole world thinks it's going to be Kyler Murray. We'll see. You never know with the NFL GMs that lie, and then they finally pick somebody. Who the heck knows? This little bit I'm going to talk about the draft. I'm not going to talk about all the players that you know about. We have a general idea of the first 10 picks. You know, we're talking Nick Bosa, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Quinnen Williams, Dwayne Haskins. All those guys are in the mix. But what I want to talk about is the value picks. The guys that are going to go a little bit later, but are going to be turning out to be these great players for these NFL teams in years to come. My first one, wide receiver. A fellow out of South Carolina named Deebo Samuel. First, his name is Deebo. I have to love that. Props to the movie Friday. I don't know if he was named Deebo because of that movie, but I'd like to think he was, which is awesome. Deebo, if you've never seen him play, look at his tapes. He is a speedy little receiver. He's only 5'11", but he is a tough runner once he catches the ball. He ran a 4.5 at the 40, so that's pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's pretty darn good. And against Clemson, you know, best team in the country, right? 210 yards receiving, 3 TDs. So against the best, he plays his best. I've seen him play for the past few years. Being a Missouri fan, watching South Carolina, he is a tough guy to guard. He really is. He's going to draw double teams. He's going to open up opportunities for other players on your team. But keep your eye on Deebo Samuel. He's not ranked very high on the wide receiver list at the moment, which is why I think he'll fall a little bit, and someone's going to get a nice pick. Seems like someone the Patriots might pick, because somehow the Patriots always find these guys that, you know, no one's looking at, and it works out amazingly for Tom Brady and the Patriots, of course. They need to win more, right? Second one, Elijah Holyfield, okay? Running back out of Georgia. Rushed for over 1,000 yards last year. Averages 6.4 yards a carry. That is fantastic. You don't get that every day. 6.4 yards per carry. The knocks on him is he's a little bit slower than some of the other running backs out there. 4.78 at the combine. A little slow for a 40. But he's tough. I mean, this kid, you get a hole for him, he's going to run over some dudes. He's going to get you 7 or 8 yards. Get that first down. At Georgia football, they're known for their running backs. It's a system. Give them the ball, get the first downs, ram it down your opponent's throats, basically. And bonus, his father is former heavyweight champion of the world, Evander Holyfield. So you know he's got the genes, right, to be this tough, amazing athlete. Against Kentucky this last year, he ran for 115 yards. Kentucky had a really good defense. Of course, Josh Allen, everyone knows about. Pretty stingy defense in the SEC, which no one really saw coming, but it was pretty well done. So Elijah Holyfield, he's going to fall a little bit later as well, again, because on the rankings that the so-called experts throw out there, he's quite a bit down there on the list. Moving on to quarterback. This guy I watched play a couple times, late night on ESPN because played on the West Coast. Guy from Washington State, Gardner Minshew, okay? This guy has played, I want to say Washington State was his third school in college playing for. He is a gunslinger. He threw for 4,700 yards last year. 4,700. That's a lot. Now, granted, people are like, it's a system, it's Mike Leach, but 4,700 yards is still 4,700 yards, which is a lot. At Stanford, pretty quality opponent, tough place to play. Threw for 438 with 3 TDs. Doesn't suck. He's rocking the mustache. He kind of has that Brett Favre feel to him when he plays, which I kind of like. You're never quite sure where he's going with it, but generally he makes the passes that probably shouldn't be caught. He makes them happen. He's a lot of fun to watch. And he just has that, winner vibe to him, I don't know how far he'll fall. I think he'll be a steal for somebody. Will he be a starting quarterback right away in the league? Probably not. But, there are a lot of guys who have found their way into that starting role after being mentored. I could totally see this guy, Gardner Minshew, being that guy. He's got an arm. He's got the mentality. He's got that killer mustache. Last guy I want to talk about, defensive end for Michigan, Chase Winovich. This guy, I'd like to call him the poor man's Nick Bosa because you're going to be able to get him a little bit later in the round, but same type of player. He's big. He's strong. He's explosive. He is tough when he's coming around the edge to get in front of. He did get hurt near the end of last season, which kind of hurt Michigan when they played Ohio State, unfortunately. But the guy is a specimen. He does move fast. He does get people out of the way, and he will get to your quarterback. And he's got hair like Thor. So, I mean, bonus points for that, right? Big dude, long blonde hair. I mean, what could go wrong, right? Chase Winovich, watch for him to drop a little ways as well. Someone's going to pick up on that and get a nice defensive end out of it. Who is the best overall player in the draft? Not talking value anymore. Well, obviously they're valuable. But who do I think's the best? I mean, there's obviously the names. You know, Nick Bosa, again, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Quinnen Williams, Dwayne Haskins. I'm going with Haskins. And a lot of people will disagree with that. They're like, oh, there's plenty more valuable defensive players before you get to Dwayne Haskins. And maybe that's true, but overall, like, you have to think about who's going to help you win faster, all right? If you have a franchise-type quarterback who can change your team from not making the playoffs to making the playoffs, I think he's got to be the most valuable. I'm going with Dwayne Haskins. We'll see what happens. We'll see who drafts him. There's a lot of predictions out there. I know he's not attending the draft, whatever that means, but I think quite a few guys now are choosing not to attend the draft because they'd rather be with family, which I totally respect. And also, if they might slip in the draft, they don't want to be embarrassed sitting in the green room there at the draft, which that sucks. I get that as well. I think Dwayne Haskins is the best player in this draft. We'll see what happens. That's just my opinion. Moving on. Major League Baseball, umpires, and replays. Okay. It is 2019, people. And if you ever watch a baseball game on TV, there's that little strike zone indicator that the announcers always talk about, saying, oh, was it a strike? It was a strike, Keith. Yeah, well, how about that? Well, he didn't call it that way. How is it that if we have the technology to see what a strike actually is, we don't actually use it? That seems really dumb, Major League Baseball. Professional tennis. They have a system to where they know if the ball is in or out. They even show it on TV, where it just barely nicks the line or it doesn't. In or out. Pretty simple. Major League Baseball. It's already in place. The little grid is there on every broadcast. It tells you if it was between the numbers and the knees and if it was covering the strike zone. Ball strike. Why is there this mystery strike zone that every umpire has to bring into a game? Everyone. He may call one pitch a ball, and then the very next batter, the same exact pitch is a strike. How does that happen? Part of the problem is catchers. Okay? Catchers framing. Now, good for the catchers. Being able to move that ball, move their glove around, and making something that was a ball look like a strike. That's talent. However, that doesn't make it a strike. And the fact that the umpires are falling for this, that's bad. Make it automated. It's balls and strikes. It shouldn't be a mystery. It is what it is. The rules state where the strike zone is. Let's make it automatic. For God's sakes, please. And replays. I'm okay with replays on very few things. Home runs. Okay. Foul or fair. Fine. That makes perfect sense. It's hard to see a baseball when you're looking from, 50 yards away, trying to figure out if it was foul or fair. That's hard. That's a good one for replay. Plays at the plate. When there's a tag. Okay? Umpire doesn't always have the good view on that. That's okay as well. But when somebody is stealing a base or just running to second and they're clearly at the bag and they're actually just naturally coming up to a standing position and the shortstop has the glove on them and keeps it on them and to the point where they're actually pushing against the player, and if they can stop that replay for just one frame and they can see that somehow his foot was just a fraction of a millipede off of the bag while the glove happened to be on him, they're calling that guy out. That's terrible, okay? That's not the spirit of the game. He beat the tag. He beat the throw. He's there. At that point, it should just be dead, okay? It's dumb, and it's slowing down the games. Everything's going to be a replay. That's not – baseball's long enough as it is. I love baseball, but I'm not going to lie. If my team's up by a few runs, I'll go do something else for a while, come back and check the score. Sometimes, I take a nap. I'm not going to lie. Happens. Just happens. That's what happens when you watch baseball sometimes. If your team's getting killed, you'll most likely change the channel or you take a nap. So, replays got to go. Make it very limited. And for the love of God, can we take balls and strikes out of these idiots' hands for once? These guys all have their own attitudes and their egos, and they call certain pitchers certain ways. If you won a Cy Young last year, you're going to get all these calls, which is BS. Let's change it, okay? Let's get rid of it. Rework the replay somehow. Make it less, invasive to where it's every nitpicking thing. Let's look at the replay. That's annoying. It's not what baseball's supposed to be like. It really isn't. Last topic of the show. So this is not news anymore. This came out a while ago, a few months back. The Supreme Court has ruled that legalized sports gambling is available to everyone. Any state that wants to approve it, you can do it. I am kind of torn about this. I've never personally thought gambling was a good thing for sports in general. It does lead to possible cheating and integrity issues as far as, outcomes of games maybe be based on how much money was going towards this team versus that team. Or, if everyone can do it, if all these states approve it, you're talking about athletes, college athletes, betting perhaps on themselves, against themselves. Lots can go wrong with this. I'm okay with the limited amount of gambling. There's a lot of gambling. I shouldn't say limited, but what goes on in Vegas, I'm okay with it. It is what it is. The people that go to Vegas, they are professional gamblers. That's what they love to do. And quite honestly, a lot of people, that's all they do. They just gamble. That's how they make their money, and then they lose their money. However, if you make gambling on sports legal across every state in this country, and the states all approve it, you are changing how the games will be played, how the public will receive every possible call that goes a certain way, every possible outcome to any game. They are constantly going to be thinking, oh, well, the referees probably had a lot of money on this one. Or the owner of the team, maybe he placed a big bet. Or maybe he's got some friends that have a lot more money, and maybe they placed a bet. It all becomes so much more easy for people to be doing things that maybe aren't in the spirit of true sports. It's going to happen. Most of these states are probably going to approve it eventually. And yeah, will it affect the games? I think it will. I think it's inevitable that integrity will be lost. There will be point-shaving instances. There will be just about any sort of cheating you can think of because there'll be so much money on the line. And what kills me is now these sports leagues are getting in on something like, we want a cut. We want some of your profits, casinos. And to that I say, well, how's that going to work? If the league is actually making money off of this, the league could also perhaps work with the casinos, and then the league could work with their employees, which I mean athletes, to also shape the way that they do certain things to make more money, to profit more, to make certain outcomes be this or that. It's all super shady to me, personally. It's a huge conflict of interest. And, these casinos are flat out saying, no, you're not getting a cut. We're taking the risk here. We have to get all the licenses to do this gambling. We're the ones that can lose our butts if somebody gets lucky on a few bets here and there, and you also want a cut of this just because your athletes are the reason that is what we're using to make money. It doesn't really fly. It's been going on in Vegas forever, and the leagues have never won a cut of that. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens and what states decide that this is something they really want to do or not. Again, I have a huge problem with the idea of college athletics. And currently, we have a problem already as it is with, the amount of student athletes that are getting paid, okay, under the table by who knows who, whatever booster you want to name. But basketball, football players, who knows, maybe even baseball and some of the bigger schools that are higher-end talent schools, they're getting paid, all right? So don't you think that if they can all gamble now on their sport, don't you think that opens up a whole nother can of worms to give these colleges? And let's be honest, we remember college. I remember college. You make a lot of bad decisions in college sometimes. If I was a really good athlete and I had the power to change outcomes of games for a certain amount of money given to me by somebody else, and knowing that I would profit off bets that I had made, man, that is pretty tempting to a 21, 22-year-old college kid. I don't know. I think gambling overall, legalizing it countrywide for sports is a terrible idea. I think it will change the sports landscape for the worst. But what do I know? I have no say on this. I am not, surprisingly, not a member of the Supreme Court. I don't know. I might run one of these days. I would have to get my law degree first, of course, but that's for another episode. That was the last part of my wonderful show. However, my favorite part is WTF. Today on WTF, I'm talking about tiny houses. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a starter home that you get after you first get married that happens to be, I don't know, maybe 1,400 square feet. That could be considered a tiny house to some. No. I'm talking about these sheds that people put on wheels and add a front deck to. They're called tiny houses. They're so cute. There's actually a TV show about tiny houses. And they crack me up because the comments that these people make on these shows are, oh my gosh, we have so much room for entertaining. Yeah, 400 square feet of entertainment. Knock yourselves out, kids, okay? Tiny house. And where do you sleep in a tiny house? Oh, wait, here, there's a ladder that goes to the loft. I'm sorry to say, but, let's just, hypothetically speaking, say you go out to dinner and maybe have a few glasses of wine. What are the chances that you can actually successfully climb that ladder and get to the loft in one piece, or without falling off and breaking your neck? Just saying. Seems like an awful, awful idea. And the kicker, here's my favorite part of tiny houses, is the toilets. Yeah, the self-decomposing, earth super-friendly toilets. Yeah. I don't want anything to do with a toilet like that where I live. So people who are into the tiny house thing and think they're super cool, what the f***? That is it. Shameless plug of the show. Abita Purple Haze. It is a fantastic beer. Straight out of New Orleans. I love it. It's delicious. That's it. Thanks for listening. I will see you next time on the Cup of Joe Sports Show. Goodbye.